Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm doing something a little bit different in my junk journal. Since I have a piece of drawing paper here to work on, I've decided I'm going to do a little sketching in my junk journal here, do a little art. The art that I want to work with is this printout here of some digital drawings I did of historical cats, and I just kind of want to transfer that sketch into the book so then I can continue working with it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use that old technique that you probably learned in elementary school where you take some graphite pencils and you just start loading the back with a bunch of graphite, and then what I'll do is I'll end up eventually tracing over the image and getting the image to transfer. And here we've skipped ahead in my loading the back of it with the graphite. You can see that I've really tried to be pretty heavy-handed with the graphite. You definitely want to get a lot of the graphite pigment on there so that it will transfer when you flip it over and begin to trace. So here I have the graphite pretty much done, and I'm just going to cut down the paper so it will fit inside the journal. So before you start actually tracing the design, what you're going to want to do is to get a little bit of washi tape. And you're just going to gently tape down the image exactly where you want it so it doesn't move around while you're tracing the image. If it moves around while you're tracing the image, you aren't going to get a clear picture in the end. The next step in doing this kind of transfer is then to begin going over your drawing lines here. And it's a little bit long and tedious because you are going to want to press fairly hard, and you're going to want to be sure that everything gets nice and filled in correctly. Otherwise, it won't transfer. Here, I'm doing a little check to make sure that it's working. And it is. It's always a good idea to go ahead and do a little check as well. And now that I feel secure in knowing that it is transferring, I'm just going to go ahead and continue tracing out the whole design. One more thing of note while we hyperspeed through the tracing of my drawing is that you can check to make sure that things are transferring. You just have to be careful to always leave at least one piece of tape still on there so your image doesn't misalign. Alright, so once you feel satisfied that you have gone over every line, you can do a little double check here, and everything seems to be good. The image definitely transferred, so it's time to remove the original sketch, and now it's time to prep this for artwork. Since I am planning on using Copic markers on this page, I want to lessen the amount of graphite that is on this page here. And ultimately what I ended up doing was I grabbed my kneaded eraser and I kind of Well, I had to get it warmed up first because it was a fresh new one, and fresh new kneaded erasers are always a little bit tough, so you have to knead them a little bit, get them warm in your hand, and basically I transformed it into kind of like a rolling pin, which then I use it as a rolling pin over the whole sketch here, and you will see here in a minute that it'll very slowly start lifting up some of that graphite, so I won't have too much of it on the page. Here you go. You can start to see it now. It's disappearing, but I can still see it, and this will make it nicer for the Copic to, you know, do its thing without having too much ugly pencil marks. Here you can see a bunch of the graphite, and you can see that the image is still there. It's just very faint. Now, if you're not familiar with kneaded erasers, after you do something like this, you just continue kneading it, and it will incorporate that graphite into the eraser, and basically the eraser comes out clean again, which is kind of crazy and awesome. And I do like these erasers. You will eventually, however, have to get a new one because it will just become too graphite loaded. But yeah, you can refurbish your little erasers a lot of times before they end up dead. So the first thing I want to do with the Copics is decide my palette and do a little swatching before I go ahead and commit to putting a color down on the drawing paper. Once I've found some suitable colors, it's just time to go ahead and start putting pigment to paper. If you aren't very familiar with Copic markers, I will give you a little overview here. Basically, they're alcohol-based markers, and they kind of have a little bit of a watercolor quality about them. You can layer upon the color and get darker colors and stuff like that. And I guess I would say the way that I treat the markers is I do kind of like to build up color like I would a watercolor washes, is what I would say. I do have a tendency to like to use my Copic markers a little bit minimally, I guess you could say. That's just my preference, but some people can do, you know, full color end-to-end drawings with this, and they're so awesome, but I don't know. I just like to keep it simple. Anyway, the other thing I should mention about the Copic markers is if you get the style that I have here, which has a brush tip on one end and then a regular marker tip on the other, you can buy refill inks for these. So whereas the investment in buying a few Copic markers, it's a bit pricey, but once you've invested in the tool, you can then just buy the replacement inks, which you get like quite a lot of replacement ink, and then you just basically refill the marker body in there and go to town again. So ultimately, if you use markers a lot, it is cost effective to, you know, save up and slowly start building a Copic library if you're a marker artist. For a hot minute here, I kind of fancied filling in her dress with this washi tape that I had recently purchased. It was cute little floral bunnies, very springtime themed, and it had a little bit of gold foil embellishments on it, but I quickly decided that it just wasn't going to work out with the drawing. So I ixnayed that plan, but I'm saving my crinkly little piece of wrapping paper here with the cute little sticker for something else. Since the washi tape plan wasn't going to work out, I was going to have to choose some more colors and paint in the rest of the drawing. After I finished applying the Copic marker, I kind of wanted to check and see how bad the bleed through was on the other side. Opening my little doors on the other side of the paper, I could see that everything did pretty well, except for this little middle area that didn't have anything stuck in it. But you know what? I don't really care that it bled through in that area. It doesn't bother me. In fact, I think it kind of adds a little bit to it. After that, I finished off with the coloring of this page and just adding a little extra detail here and there, and then it was time to do some outlining. Since I wanted to keep with the cartoony illustrative quality of this piece, I decided I would go ahead and get out my Faber-Castell Polychromos colored pencils and do the line art in them. I just chose a couple colors for my line art, and then I just got to work. After getting the line art done, I wasn't quite sure how I wanted to progress with the drawing, and also with the matching page on the other side. One thing I did want to do is I wanted to preserve my little palette here, because I really enjoy seeing the little palettes. I don't know why. It just gives me a little bit of joy to see the colors all jumbled together and to see the little bits of marking here and there. So I wanted to preserve that, and clearly I wanted to use my masking tape wrapper as well. But I didn't want to cover up the image on the left-hand side, so that was going to have to be something for the right-hand side of the page. The cat portrait on the left was still a little too boring, so what I wanted to do was to make a little frame around her, kind of like almost like it's like the wallpaper or something. To do that, what I ended up doing was I laid down my sketch on top of the paper, and I just ended up tracing it, and I didn't make a perfect oval or anything. My oval is very lopsided and wobbly and everything, but I figured since it was a junk journal and I just wanted to have fun, it didn't really matter. After getting the basic outline ready, I had remembered that I got a new cutting mat for Christmas, and it was finally time to get started using it. Here it is. I had to unwrap it, but yeah, it was a nice gift. To get the oval started, I was definitely going to need to trace my lines with my X-Acto blade, and I sadly came to realize that my X-Acto blade is very, very dull, and I need a new one. So not only is my oval wonky, but it also has a little bit of schmutz from me trying to poke the blade through here and just trying to get it to cut. It was a real bear. So with that said, I definitely need to add X-Acto blades to my next art supply shopping list, or spree, or whatever you want to call it. Though technically it's not a spree, because I am really trying to do a low buy sort of situation here in 2025. I definitely want to try to save money. Anyway, once I had a big enough hole here in my paper using my terrible X-Acto blade, I did just take the scissors and I just used the scissors for the rest of the way around. After giving my little frame a test here, I decided to bust out my glue sticks and start applying the paper frame onto the image. I did notice that my frame was a little bit too close on one end, so I did pull the edge of the paper back up, and I just brought my scissors in and made a little trim. I feel like anytime you make accidents, you just gotta figure out a way to solve the problem and fix it. I think that is just part of making art, is correcting your mistakes and making it look like you didn't make any mistakes at all. And I'll be just a touch political here since I was trained as an art teacher. This is one of the reasons why art is really important in schools. It's because it teaches children creative problem solving techniques. It lets them think outside the box. So when they're out there in the real world and they encounter a problem, they know that they have the brain power to solve the puzzle and fix it. And that will be my end rant on art education. Because, I can't not advocate for the art educators. But yeah, it's not too political really. But yeah, education good. After adding the frame, I did feel like there were a few areas in the drawing that felt a little bit washed out, so what I wanted to do then was pull out the good old colored pencils again and give the drawing a little more oomph. After that, I noticed that I was having a little trouble with the edge of my paper staying down near the spine, so what I did was I just decided I was going to use some nice little pastel pink stripe washi tape and just tape it down like a little hinge. After that, I still wasn't quite sure what I wanted to do with these 2 pages. They were still looking a bit plain, so I just puttered around with a few things here and there and started to try to get an idea to come together. So after I played around for a good, I don't know, almost 15 minutes placing and unplacing things, I had the bright idea that I wanted to try to do a little sewing on paper. When I went to go get my needles out and a little bit of pink thread, I happened to come across this little grab bag of laces that I had purchased at one point in time. I think I had originally intended to use these laces for some doll clothing, but I hadn't, and so I just ended up using a little bit of the lace in this artwork. And then I don't know, for some reason, incorporating the textiles with the art, it got me really excited, especially since this particular piece of lace here, it fit nearly perfectly around this frame, like it was meant to be there, and I was like, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna put this on that picture. Screw it all. I'm just gonna go wacky with it. And so I did. The first wacky thing that I wanted to do was to take this bit of pink thread here, and I wanted to try to sew together the 2 little mylar crinkly wrappers that came off of the washi tapes that I had purchased, because I just really enjoy those little stickers that they put on there, and also the crinkly wrapping paper is, pleasant to crinkle, and it also kind of makes like a little see-through bit of paper that I thought might be interesting to have like a little see-through kind of paper window kind of action that you could kind of see the page below it through it. So I was just like, you know what? I'm just gonna throw caution to the wind. I don't even care if this doesn't work out. I'm just gonna try it because why the heck not? At first, it was really fiddly to get started, but then once I had a couple stitches in, it actually started working. And you can see here that I've already got a couple stitches going, and you know, my stitch lengths and everything were not that great because I was just trying to sew through plastic, and but it worked, and it was kind of interesting because you could see the stitch behind the quote-unquote fabric and also the stitch on top. So yeah, my stitches look all wonkly and wiggly and all over the place, but it heckin' worked, and that was kind of cool. At this point, because it worked sewing these two pieces of plastic wrap together, I decided that it definitely was going to be used like as an additional page with like, and I was going to give it a little hinge, and I was going to put something else on the paper below it. And what I wanted to do was incorporate the little oval that I cut out of the frame, so it kind of matched. So it was like negative space, positive space kind of action here. And yeah, so that was the general idea going forward here. And I ended up gluing that piece of paper down. After that, it was time to start incorporating the my little plastic trash page. Let's call it what it is. No, it's pretty. Come on. Anyway, I was going to just use the same washi tape and do the hinge effect with it. Since I had already used the tape on the paper, it wasn't going to matter much. And also the pastel pink matched pretty well. So yeah, I basically made a little tape hinge and slapped it in there. I also want to point out that I did tape the hinge on the opposite side of this little plastic page, just so it was neat and clean and would definitely stay stuck in there. And next, I just started pulling together some of the elements that I wanted to stick on the opposite page. I wanted to remind myself how fun it was to experiment with things, so I wrote myself a little message here in this opposite of the picture frame. It just as a little message to myself about how enjoyable it was to do this layout. I also like how the plastic page that I sewed could overlay it, and you can kind of see the writing under there, and you can also see the stickers from the washi tape. Yeah, so I was just really enjoying these kind of like layers, and then I had to decide how I was going to incorporate the other things that I definitely wanted to put in this page. At one point, I just decided that I wanted to somehow incorporate this little pink ribbon onto the page because it matches aesthetically with everything else. And lately, I have been coming to realize that I really enjoy textiles, especially like printed fabrics and all of the designs and stuff that come with that. So I thought I would go ahead and actually sew this little bit of ribbon on here, so it's yet another layer that I can add on here and flip around and play with or whatever. By this point, the right-hand page was pretty well populated and was mostly done, so now it was going to be time to focus on the left-hand side of the page for gluing the ribbon down. So, I know I don't really care for hot glue, but I did have to get out the hot glue for this because I didn't want to sew through the page on the other side that was already done. So yeah, I ended up going with the hot glue because it was going to be easier and wouldn't mess up the page that was already finished on the other side. I'll super speed a little bit through the hot gluing session here. Basically, I did a little bit by a little bit. I didn't want the hot glue coming through the lace too much, so I really had to be controlled and stick it under the little, gosh, what's the top of the lace thing called, where it's kind of the selvage? Is it the selvage of the lace? Maybe? Anyway, so I was trying to hide it under that selvage band. Let's just call it selvage. And doing little by little and very carefully. Also, by the end, I did end up covering over that little blue ribbon, but I didn't think it was that terribly bad. And that is pretty much it for this layout. I definitely was really excited to do this little layout here. It let me experiment with a lot of new things, and I am just excited to share this with everyone. But yeah, that's probably about it for this video, and I hope you enjoyed hearing my process. And if you like my videos, please like them and consider subscribing to my channel. And also, if you're feeling kind enough, go ahead and leave a comment, because comments definitely help with the algorithm and all that stuff. And I will definitely be back again with another junk journaling video, because I've got another buildup of pieces of trash that I want to journal about. Anyway, I hope you have a great day and happy journaling to you. Bye-bye!